This is the lecture video for the Humans and Resources digital content page. That content page tells you about the 4 main resources that we use to survive. I'm going to tell you a little bit more detail about natural resources, the difference between renewable and non-renewable, and how we generate electricity. Remember, you can pause and rewind and rewatch this video, so if I'm talking fast, just start it over or slow down the playback speed. All right? Highly recommend that while you're watching this video, you listen to my voice. Even if you have the captions on, do both. It will help you learn it even better. All right? And take really good notes. So, what are natural resources and how do we use them as an energy source? Natural resource essentially is anything from the earth that we use. I mean, it's everything, right? Any natural substance: oil, coal, natural gas, metal, stone, sand, air, sunlight, soil, water, animals. Look at this picture. Everything in this picture is a natural resource. We can drink the water. We can use the water to irrigate crops. We can eat some of these plants that are in the woods, right? We can cut the trees down and make lumber so we can build buildings and houses and furniture. We could use these rocks for building materials. We can crack them open and get shiny stuff out of them because humans love to trade shiny stuff for other stuff, right? These are what natural resources are. Here's a list of natural resources and what we use them for. Write down a couple of these examples in your notes. Write down the natural resource and write down what we use it for. Now, there's a difference between renewable and non-renewable. It's all about time. Renewable resources replenish themselves in a relatively short amount of time. Things like wind, solar, water, geothermal, these are renewable energy sources that people usually think about. But you can also think about other things like fish, right? Or animals, right? Like if you hunt deer, people eat deer just like we eat cows. Is this a deer? That looks like an alligator deer. Whatever. Looks like a dinosaur. Those are antlers. Now it's a deer. If you ever thought about, these regenerate themselves. Deers will have deers. A deer will have baby. Deer will have babies. Fish will have babies that we can eat in the future. The problem is if we eat all the fish in 1 year, all the deer in 1 year, they'll be gone. There's no parents to have kids. That's why if you've ever gone fishing or deer hunting, you will see that you can only hunt deer a certain time of the year, and you can only get so many. Just like fish, you have to have a certain size fish, or else you have to throw it back. Why do they do that? That's because they realize that fish at a certain length are a certain age, and at a certain age they have babies. So if they are a certain length, we can pretty much assume that they already had a bunch of kids. So if we catch it and eat it, then next year we can go and catch their kids. Or if next year you catch one of the babies, you measure, you say, oh, it's too short, throw it back. The reason we want to throw it back is because we want that fish to get bigger so it can have a bunch of babies itself. Then when it's big enough, it already had babies, you catch it and you eat it. That's how we regenerate these foods. Non-renewable resources are things that require long periods of time. Not that they don't regenerate, but it takes forever, like fossil fuels. The fossil fuels that we use take millions of years to generate. If we use them in 1,000 years, then they're gone. We won't see any of those in our lifetime. Well, I guess even probably in the human species existence, because it takes so long for them to form. There are some things like metals, right? These things actually don't ever reform. The elements that we have, we're not getting rained on by elements from other stars from far away, galaxies or galaxies. So these metals that we get, these actually don't renew at all. They're non-renewable to a point where they never renew. That is why we recycle them, right? The metal that is the microphone I'm talking into, the MacBook I have in front of me, the metal can be melted down and reused, which is why recycling is such an important thing. Of course, fossil fuels are non-renewable. So we face challenges. If we use resources faster than we can get them, regenerate them, then we will run out. Also, when we use these and when we extract them and process them, there can be pollution. You might think that, building a table doesn't cause that much pollution because you're just using a hammer and nails, but you had to cut down a tree. You had to use some kind of cutting device. Also, when that tree fell down, you had to slice it up into different pieces. You might have stained it. You may have pressure treated it using chemicals. These all have natural environmental problems and health problems. But not even just that, not just the pollution, but we can disrupt ecosystems, right? If we take too many fish out of the sea, then we mess up the food chain. If we take all the trees out of a forest, what about all the animals that used to live there, right? That can decrease the biodiversity. And if you don't care about animals or nature, which you should because we rely on it, a lot of human health effects happen from us extracting, like mining and processing. A lot of metals are taken out of, mining um, raw materials by using chemicals, and those chemicals usually get into our water or into our food. So let's talk about electricity. I'm going to give you a very quick overview. What is it? It's just electrons that are flowing through a wire. We call it a secondary form of energy because we have to use a different source of energy to make the electricity. This is what we mostly use. You might think, oh, what about lightning? Yeah, we really don't catch that much lightning and store it and reuse it as electricity. I mean, technically we could, but it's really hard to store lightning. All right. The way it's generated is very simple. All you need is a magnet and some copper wire. That's it. And all you have to do is move the magnet in the copper wire, or you can move the copper wire around the magnet, or you can have a different shape magnet. Like sometimes there's magnets that are made like circles like this, and then they put copper wire in the middle of it, and they spin the magnet around it. Well, however you move those things near each other, it'll make electrons run through the wire, which we can use in some kind of motor or whatever we create in the wire to get work done as energy. And I'm going to show you a picture. This is the most simple way. More modern way that we do this is using turbines. And turbines look like this. They're these big crazy things. Essentially, all that a turbine is, it's very simple. All that a turbine is they put like some kind of fan blade. Yeah, it's a fan. And they attach it to a shaft, and they will make that shaft, let's say these are magnets, there's copper wire in here. And all they'll do is they'll find some way to make this thing spin, and that will spin the magnet around the wire. And they'll have wires attached to that copper wire, and you'll get electricity from it. Bing, that's it. Now, you can probably think that we can put fan blades on this, which is exactly what wind energy is, but the most common way to do this is using steam. The most common way they do it is, I don't want that. No, I want this. The most common way they do it is they'll use water, they will heat it up, turn it into steam, run it through some pipes, and make it hit that fan that I had drawn before, and spin it, which spins the generator. And then they'll cool the water down, make it water again, heat it back up into steam, and that keeps that spinning. The only problem is we need some way to heat that water up. And the most efficient way to do that, maybe not the most environmentally friendly, is using fossil fuels. The reason we use fossil fuels is because they burn hot and they burn efficiently. Coal, natural gas, these things burn really hot. You don't need a lot of them to burn really hot to boil that steam. We could use things like vegetable oil or paper, and those are sources of fuel sources, but they don't burn as hot. All right? That's how electricity is generated. We're going to use these later. You can look through these examples and try to determine which ones are renewable resources and which ones are non-renewable resources. You should have that in your notes because we will do that in our review.